Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Amritpal Singh. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, Australia stands with India in its fight against terrorism, says Australian Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Defence Richard Marles during bilateral talks with Rajnath Singh in New Delhi. Beijing hits back at US Secretary Marco Rubio for the Tiananmen remarks, calls them a distortion of history, interference in internal affairs. President Draupadi Murmu presents Distinguished Service Awards to Armed Forces personnel, honouring exemplary courage, dedication and service to the nation. The parliamentary delegation led by BJP MP Ravi Shankar Prasad is currently on its visit to the European Union headquarters in Brussels. The delegation was received by Indian Ambassador to Belgium Saurabh Kumar upon arrival in Brussels. Ambassador briefed the delegation about India's priorities and strategic agenda, including counter-terrorism cooperation. The parliamentary delegation also paid floral tributes to Mahatma Gandhi at the embassy, reaffirming India's enduring commitment to peace, non-violence and tolerance. While speaking to media, Ravi Shankar Prasad stressed upon the need to talk about human rights of the victims of terrorism.
बेल्जियम हम लोग पहुंचे हैं, महात्मा गांधी जी पर पुष्पांजलि डाली है अभी। हम लोग को ब्रीफिंग भी दी है एम्बेसडर ने, यूरोपियन यूनियन, बेल्जियम, यहाँ की कम्युनिटी, अपना स्टैंड इन सबों को बताते हुए हम अपनी बात कहेंगे और हम लोग यहाँ ह्यूमन राइट्स की भी बात करेंगे कि आतंकवाद के जो विक्टिम हैं उनके भी ह्यूमन राइट की चर्चा होनी चाहिए।
Australia stands with India against terrorism. This is what the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia, Richard Marles, said in his opening remarks during the bilateral meeting between the two defence ministers in New Delhi. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh also apprised his Australian counterpart on the challenges India is facing on its western front.
The Australian Deputy Prime Minister, who also holds the defence portfolio, was given a guard of honour at the Manekshaw Centre in Delhi on Wednesday. He was accompanied by the Defence Minister of India, Rajnath Singh. The two defence ministers are accompanied by the top military brass and officials of both countries. In his welcome address, Rajnath Singh said that India is facing extreme challenges on the Western Front in response to the dastardly attack in Pahalgam in Kashmir.
I wish to mention that this meeting is happening at a time when India is facing extreme challenges at our western border. And we have taken steps in response to barbaric incident in Kashmir. We thank Australia for its support on this issue. We shall be talking more about this later in the meeting.
The Australian Deputy Prime Minister expressed his solidarity with India against terrorism. Richard Marles, who also holds the defence portfolio, said that India and Australia are close partners in defence and maritime security.
We want to make clear that Australia stands with India and all countries in combating terrorism. We acknowledge and we welcome the stoppage in military activity. We see this as an act of Indian leadership. But we will continue to work with India as we combat terrorism in all its forms.
The Deputy Prime Minister of Australia, Richard Marles, is the first senior Australian minister to visit India after the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese retained power for the second term. Marles's visit to India is part of a four-nation visit to South and Southeast Asia from June 2 to June 5 for high-level meetings. With Nandita Dagar, Vishal Barristow's report for DD India.
Earlier, Richard Marles visited the National War Memorial and paid tributes to fallen heroes by laying a wreath at the memorial. The visit coincides with the 5th anniversary of Australia and India's comprehensive strategic partnership, which underpins the relationship and shared vision for the Indian Ocean. Defence and security are key pillars of the comprehensive strategic partnership, with both nations committed to peace, stability and a rules-based order in the Indo-Pacific. And the Australian Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles also met Prime Minister Modi. Both leaders held a productive discussion on deepening the India-Australia Comprehensive Strategic Partnership, which marks its 5th anniversary today. The India-Australia collaboration is guided by a shared vision for a stable, secure and prosperous Indo-Pacific. At the BRICS Ministerial Meeting on Information and Communication Technology, the group has unanimously decided to have cooperation in 4 strategic areas of connectivity, space, sustainability, environment sustainability and digital ecosystem governance. The meeting held in Brasilia had a strong Indian presence, as the country was represented by Minister of State for Telecommunications, Dr. Pemasani Chandrasekhar. The minister spoke to DD India's Shobhan Saxena at the Indian Embassy in Brasilia before flying home on Tuesday.
We have with us Mr. Chandrasekhar Pemasani, Minister of State for Telecommunications and Rural Development, Government of India. He is in Brasilia to participate in the BRICS Telecommunications Conference. Sir, could you please tell us about the purpose of your visit and how was the visit?
So, we're part of BRICS nations when it comes to telecommunications. This year theme, there are 4 priorities, strategic priorities: environmental sustainability, satellite-based sustainability, and then meaningful connectivity and digital ecosystem. These are the major themes. I'm mainly here to tell what India has achieved in all these 4 areas over the especially last 10 years. And also participate and learn what the rest of the world is doing so that we can take the telecom to the next level.
And how was that experience?
Experience has been quite good, and I am actually proud and to say that India has achieved what was unthinkable 10-15 years ago. And we have showcased all the things that we have done to the rest of the world. And there are certain things that I also learned from here. So all in all, a well-rounded conference.
So what is the message you're taking back to New Delhi from here?
So one of the themes is, while we have connected the entire country, meaningful connectivity has a different definition here. They are also including the quality of the service, the affordability, and there are other metrics that are being, even though we do that individually, we don't have a proper systematic framework. And that kind of meaningful connectivity framework is something we could implement.
Thank you so much, sir. Talking to DD India. Thanks a lot.
Beijing has slammed US Secretary of State Marco Rubio for his remarks on the 1989 Tiananmen Square crackdown, calling them malicious attack on China. Rubio had said that the world will never forget the brutal suppression of peaceful protesters as China continues efforts to erase the event from public memory. On the 36th anniversary of the attacks, the police tightened security around key sites in Beijing, while the embassies paid tributes with symbolic candle displays. China's foreign ministry lodged a strong protest accusing the US of distorting history and interfering in China's internal affairs. US President Donald Trump Trump's increased tariffs on imported steel and aluminum from 25% to 50% came into effect on Wednesday. US President announced an increase in tariffs on May 30th, ratcheting up pressure on global steel producers and deepening his trade war. The move has marked the latest salvo in Trump's trade wars, bringing levies on both metals from 25% to 50%. But tariffs on metal imports from the United Kingdom will remain at 25%. while both sides work out duties and quotas in line with the terms of their earlier trade pact. European Union Trade Commissioner Marles has expressed strong regret over the United States' decision to impose a 50% tariff on steel and aluminum imports, calling the move unhelpful for ongoing trade negotiations. Speaking on the sidelines of a ministerial meeting in Paris, Šefčovič said that he had agreed with the United States Trade Representative Jameson Greer on how to restructure the focus of their trade talks.
We discussed this with the US Trade Representative, the Ambassador Jameson Greer, and I told him that we strongly regret this latest US decision, and I explained to him that it clearly doesn't help the ongoing negotiations, especially as we are making progress. We had our short exchanges yesterday, but substantive, productive, and I have to say constructive discussion this morning. I have to say that after this discussion, we both concluded that we are advancing in the right direction.
For more on what that means for the EU and ongoing trade negotiations between Brussels and Washington, DC, let's turn to DW correspondent Chiponda Chembelu in Berlin. Hi, Chiponda. How much do you think will the tariff hike affect the EU economy?
Well, it will probably have a bigger impact on Germany, which is, of course, Europe's biggest steel producer. And ThyssenKrupp, Germany's largest steel producer, has already been struggling. But the effect on the wider EU economy won't be huge. And that's because Canada, Brazil, and Mexico are the largest suppliers of steel to the United States. So the effect on the bloc's economy is quite minimal. Now, one calculation by the Kiel Institute for the World Economy showed that the previous tariffs of 25% were only expected to result in a very tiny decline of real GDP. We're talking about a decline of 0.02%. And that is because steel and aluminum tariffs only account for around 5% of total EU exports. So even the higher tariffs won't lead to much of an impact on the bloc's economy. But of course, they do have a major effect on European companies doing business in the United States, Mexico, and Canada, especially car makers. They produce, of course, in those markets, and they do need steel and aluminum.
Okay. And what about the global economy, Chiponda? How will it be affected?
The latest tariff hike for steel and aluminum has, of course, raised the prospect of an escalation of the trade dispute, not just between the United States and the European Union, but also between the US and China. And that, of course, will hurt the global economy because those three economies account for a huge chunk of global GDP. Now, that is why the OECD lowered its global outlook in its latest forecast, which was published this week, and it blames US President Trump's trade policies. It says that the tariffs are not just hurting the global economy, but also the American one as well. And the fact that there are substantial trade barriers has, of course, increased uncertainty, and that is something that is lowering confidence and leading to more tighter financial conditions. Now, right now, businesses are, of course, unable to plan because no one knows what will come next from the White House. And of course, the longer that's going to carry on, the likelier it is that the global economy will take a downturn for a longer time.
Chiponda Chembelu, thank you for joining from Berlin. The German cabinet has approved a first tax relief package worth 46 billion euros to support companies and revive its sluggish economy. The tax relief package aims to boost investment with measures like favorable depreciation options for companies to ease their tax burden, including depreciation rates of as much as 30% per year for 3 years. Germany's anemic economy could be facing a third consecutive year of contraction for the first time in its post-war history, and reviving the economy is a key task for the new government. Let's now take a look at some other news. Hundreds of people have flocked to the shores of South Africa's east coast city of Durban this week to reel in the small wriggling fish or watch those laboring with nets and crates during the annual sardine run. A new immersive art installation with fleeting and constantly changing AI-generated images of the natural world is welcoming visitors to the Essex SW London. The audiovisual installation, called Grounding, used landscape imagery to train AI algorithms to create its own version of shifting nature of land, water, air and weather. Strawberry season has arrived early to Britain this year thanks to a near-perfect spring blend of warm days, cool nights and high sunshine levels. The favourable conditions have meant sweeter, larger and more shapely strawberries arriving earlier on supermarket shelves this year and lower prices for shoppers. Still to come up on this edition of DD India Live, newly elected South Korea's President Lee Jae-myung vows to revive democracy from near demise. After President Masoud Pezeshkian, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei reiterates Tehran will not abandon its uranium enrichment.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Amritpal Singh. Let's take a look at other news now. UN Resident Coordinator in Bangladesh, Juan Lewis, on Wednesday said that the participation and inclusion of all political parties will help prevent a very polarized position and potential unrest. The Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights in its fact-finding report recommended Bangladesh to refrain from political party bans undermining democracy and disenfranchising part of the electorate. The UN Human Rights Office shared recommendations in some specific cases, including accountability and justice, police and security, civic space, political system, economic governance. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei on Wednesday rejected a key U.S. demand to abandon its uranium enrichment program. Iranian leader said that Tehran will not abandon any of its nuclear plans. The U.S. proposal for a new nuclear deal was presented to Iran on Saturday by Oman. After 5 rounds of talks, several hard-to-bridge issues remain, including Iran's insistence on maintaining uranium enrichment on its soil and Tehran's refusal to ship abroad its entire existing stockpile of highly enriched uranium, possible raw material for nuclear bombs.
The rude and arrogant leaders of America repeat this demand in various ways. The Americans' first demand is that you should not have a nuclear industry at all. Iran should not have a nuclear industry. You should depend on us for radiopharmaceuticals, medicine, energy, desalination equipment, and dozens of other important fields. You should have no nuclear program.
Masoud Pezeshkian also quoted that Tehran would not bow to the pressure by the United States to dismantle its nuclear program. Tehran said it wants to master nuclear technology for peaceful purposes and has long denied accusations by West that it's seeking to develop nuclear weapons. South Korea's new President Lee Jae-myung vowed to reach out to the nuclear-armed North and heal wounds as he took office on Wednesday after winning snap elections. Lee scored a thumping victory over conservative Kim Moon-soo in snap elections, with his term beginning immediately after the vote tally was certified early on Wednesday. Lee spoke to South Korea's top military commander and formally assumed operational control of the country's armed forces on Wednesday, urging them to maintain readiness in case of Pyongyang's provocations. However, the South Korean president in his first address vowed to pursue dialogue with Pyongyang and improve ties with Seoul's nuclear-armed neighbor. Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Jae Myung on his election as South Korea's president. In his message on X, Prime Minister Modi expressed optimism about collaborating with Lee to bolster India, Republic of Korea's special strategic partnership. President Draupadi Murmu conferred 92 distinguished service decorations to the personnel of the armed forces, Indian Coast Guard and Border Roads Organization during the Defence Investiture Ceremony 2025. These decorations include 30 Param Vishisht Seva medals, 5 Uttam Yudh Seva medals, 57 Ati Vishisht Seva medals, and several Seva medals as well. India's Minister for Coal and Mines, G. Kishan Reddy, launched a mining dashboard, a centralized digital platform to track the operational status and statutory clearances of auctioned mineral blocks nationwide. Developed by the Ministry of Mines, the dashboard aims to boost transparency, efficiency and accountability in the sector. Errol Musk, the father of billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk, arrived in the Indian holy city of Ayodhya on Wednesday. His arrival marks a significant moment as he embarks on a journey to explore the country's rich cultural and historical legacy. During his visit, he offered prayers at the Hanuman Gadi temple, one of Ayodhya's most revered religious sites. Royal challengers Bengaluru secured their maiden Indian Premier League title on Tuesday, beating Punjab Kings by 6 runs in the final in Ahmedabad. From being a 3-time runner-up to claiming the IPL trophy, RCB have finally scaled the peak. Romario Shepherd picked up the big wicket of Shreyas, but it was Kunal Pandya who set it up. Coming into the attack in the 7th over, the left-arm spinner tied the batters in knots by keeping an exceptional length. Punjab Kings would have felt it did well to restrict Bengaluru to below 200, but there was no stopping for RCB from making history. And the owner of a dazzling array of titles and milestones, Virat Kohli, has added the one highlight missing in the list. However, there was some bad news as well. The grand felicitation ceremony for the winners of IPL 2025 Royal Challengers Bengaluru turned into tragedy on Wednesday. The event, organized in Karnataka to felicitate RCB's maiden Indian Premier League title after an 18-year wait, drew an overwhelming crowd. The excitement turned chaotic even before the ceremony began, as a stampede broke out amid overcrowding. 7 people were feared dead, while several were left injured. The crowd jostled at the entry gates, with thousands of people trying to catch a glimpse of their team's cricketing heroes. Prime Minister Modi has expressed condolences over the deaths of people in Bengaluru stampede during the RCB's victory celebration. Taking to X, Prime Minister Modi said that the mishap in Bangalore is absolutely heart-rending. In this tragic hour, my thoughts are with those who have lost their loved ones. I pray that those who are injured have a speedy recovery. As the world unites on World Environment Day 2025 to champion sustainability, the Indian Coast Guard highlighted its crucial role in protecting India's 11,000-kilometer-long coastline and marine ecosystems. Through campaigns like Swachh Sagar, Surakshit Sagar and Mission Life, The ICG conducted over 58 coastal cleanups last year, removing 194 tons of plastic waste with active community involvement, equipped with specialized pollution control vessels. The ICG leads rapid response efforts against marine pollution, oil spills and chemical hazards, coordinating with over 50 agencies during the biannual Nat Polrex exercises. Well, that's it in this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Those on the go can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR codes that you see on your screens to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Amritpal Singh from my entire team here in Delhi. Thank you for watching DD India Live.